Thanks for staying with us. Before we introduce our guest, we know that yesterday evening, a 30-ton gas truck near the Otedola Bridge section of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway exploded, and quite a few were injured. A few buildings are also destroyed, and our correspondent will be there. He's actually there right now, but we'll try to link up with her in a few moments once we have a link with her, just to give us an update on what's happening at the Otedola Bridge area. It was a quite devastating destruction that happened yesterday. Quite a few buildings burned, and we said it probably claimed a couple of lives. So, but we'll get the confirmation once we're able to link with our correspondent. But first, we'll come back to the studio to our guest. This morning on the show, we'll be discussing food security in Nigeria. Most importantly, its affordability. Though there are multiple reports that show that food prices are going down, there are also reports that farmers are lamenting over this development, attributing the low prices to massive food importation by the federal government. To discuss this and other agricultural matters is an agricultural specialist. Also with us is the author. Welcome with us, Mr. Banjoko Omotunde. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Mariah. Thank you.
Good to have you. So, I mean, we were happy because tomatoes was cheaper. I mean, like I bought this big plastic of, was it was 2,000 or something, or even 1,500 some places. And something I had bought in this Lagos of 12,000 naira, you know. But things came down. But farmers are saying that, no, they're importing food. Please tell us what's going on exactly.
Okay, so many things going on about the same time. So one, there was this government policy last year giving concession on import of grains and other things. Yeah. So some of it was successful. Grains came into the country and all that. So that's one angle to it. We are also in the season of harvest of some commodities. So that's also adding to the joy we are seeing in the market.
Okay, it's a harvest season.
Harvest season for grains like maize, some peppers are in the market. So that's also good news. I think also we also realized that some IDP camps are not functioning at the moment. So those who would have mopped food for IDPs are not mopping the volume they would have mopped. So we also have that in the market. And of course, our borders are not that 100% secured at the moment. So people still bring in, through the borders as well. So those are some of the factors we are seeing now. So it's just a relief, temporary, not the permanent one that we are all hoping for, because like you rightly said, the farmers are not happy at the moment, because you look at your cost of production last year and what you had anticipated in making in revenue to be able to stay in business. Most farmers are actually going to be making below their projected revenue, which is why farmers are not happy, that they should have been factored into some of these policies, so that prices are not crashing. And the gap has always been, if there's a commodity board factoring what you had spent and what you expected, so that you remain in business, then farmers will not be
complaining. Why are we worried about you staying in business?
No, because if I don't stay in business, I cannot sustain yam right now. I mentioned it because last year yam was selling for 5,000, 6,000. People are happy to be buying yam cheaper now, but I bought yam to plant when it was at that price. That was how I bought seedling. I bought expensive seedling.
Sorry to disturb you. I'm sorry. I'm a consumer. Because we are here talking about Dangote fuel. The person that bought imported fuel, that one doesn't concern Nigeria. We are happy that the fuel is cheaper. So why are the issue that I have been with your cost price?
No, you have
I'm getting my food cheap.
You have to be concerned. Maybe Elijah should speak first before I speak.
You have to be concerned because government has added the subsidy to this importation and giving waivers, and it is not long-term sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
Eventually, you will come back to those farmers who have lost money. They will now double it, which is what happened under the anchor borrowers. Even though there was an anchor borrower, it was ridiculously more expensive.
What would also happen is you have less number of farmers farming maybe this year, and then you now have the repercussion next year or later this year. The prices will now. So you have to consider those who are producing. If you don't consider them, they will watch. Those that will leave the business will leave, but those that will stay, and nobody will run out of business at the end of the day.
So we're always having this kind of issues anytime they import products. Farmers are always suffering and all of that.
Yeah.
What could be a lasting solution to this, so in a way that farmers will be happy, and even when we import, everybody will be happy.
No, so it's a good policy. I think one of the solutions is let's have a commodity board. What we do is somebody is factoring all the stakeholders You know, I was with one of my own bank last week discussing on some of our projects for the year. No bank will give you less than 25% commercial bank as at today, maybe just for short-time loan. Some of the loans we took last year, we were paying 39% on some of the projects. So imagine I'd done that with the numbers I had last year, and you run me out of business. I'm not going back to my village now because I'm too young. I'll stay in business. But somehow the system has to keep me in business. So we have to have a commodity board factoring the cost of production, factoring the market into every policy and decision we are making. So that's one major solution, because we also look at what we are enjoying now. Why it can't last forever is because we need to have storage capacity to take our harvest. It's actually because some people cannot keep their product. That's why they're pushing to the market. Products that are not very perishable, people are keeping it. Waiting for when they can sell it at good rates. Price. So they won't sell everything. It's the ones that are perishable. People will push those ones out. But the ones that they can keep, they will keep and they'll be waiting for you that, okay, you guys will come back. Yes. So we have to have good storage capacity. We have to have commodity boards. You know, the solution cannot be this superficial, because what we are enjoying now is superficial. It has to be something that is fundamental, and I think the government are taking some steps. We can give them kudos for that. But you know, you look at, like Tope rightly said, the cost of production has to be addressed. That is the main thing we should be talking about. You know, I was looking at what do we buy fertilizers for, even in Nigeria. As of 2020, we buy fertilizer for 8,000 in this country. 7,000 for a 50 kg bag. It went to about 17,000 in 2021, 2022. Now it's between 52,000 to 64,000.
How many years?
Just within a short period. We used to pay some of our farm hands 1,000, 2,000 some years back. Now we pay 6,000, 7,000 for somebody to work for you for maybe
a few hours.
A few hours.
Let me ask you about, because I met him at Shift conference, and I dragged him. I told him, sit down, please. Where is the money in this agriculture? That was my question to him, because I dabbled into it and I felt like, okay, let's see how it can be profitable, and it's been headache upon headache. So I imagine other farmers are going through it. What is the government missing out on? You already addressed commodity board, so that there is a balance. I know when I plant, this is how much I would sell. There's nothing
and the government body is protecting it,
to protecting me and protecting, to ensure it would also protect the consumer.
Even they will buy uniform price all through the year.
Then what else can be done to also ensure that farmers can sustain their business, to ensure there is food all year round?
All year round. I think one of the things that can be done is what government is doing now. We are only praying that they see it through. Which is the recapitalization of the Bank of Agric. That's one of the most fantastic things we are hearing now. That 1.5 trillion, if it can go to the bank, and if the bank would disburse to farmers, if the bank would disburse that money to farmers, then price, like I just gave you an example of a number of what I'm going through with a commercial bank. So, but if a bank is going to give me at single digit, then I can sleep. Then instead of doing maybe 100 hectares, I can take the gamble and do 200 hectares. I can take the gamble, do 300 hectares. So those are the things. If that money, unlike the anchor borrower that we cannot really say if it went where it went, but if this one can go, and if they can also look at how easy people can access that fund, because it's also is one thing to say there's money to be accessed, is it accessible? If that can be easily accessible, then I think we might start having...
Just because you asked the question, where did the anchor borrowers go? Do you have a body of people in this business? Do you have a body for farmers? And do you check yourselves? Do you have ethical practices? Because people got this money. People with names got this money.
But do you have their names, ma? You don't have their names. You don't work with the bank. It was disbursed through CBN. So you don't have those data.
Do you know any benefits?
Yes, I'm the chairman of Agriculture FCCI, for example. So what we do is just, you can ask questions, you can say your view, but I'm not EFCC. It's EFCC that can say, okay, how was this money disbursed? EFCC can ask questions, but we are not in any way empowered or authorized to do that. We can only ask, where did the money go? So that's the only thing.
Okay, so we have been importing. For us to be importing products, it means that the farmers cannot produce to sustain the country, right?
Okay.
So
Is that
and
a fact,
I've
No, that's
known,
not a fact.
yeah, so and I've known that they have been pumping money, you know, every government that comes in is always
Agriculture.
pumping money into this agriculture, this thing. So it looks like the money, they are not using the money for the right things, because so far, sometimes when I go to the north and I see their farmlands, I see that most of them, they are still planting these things manually.
Yeah.
And when you do it manually, you don't get
can't get
smart
the
drones
scale,
out.
yeah.
So why can't the money be diverted to bringing in, you know, tractors, you know, all those seed planters and all of that?
Yeah, no, I think
to
that has been
assist
done
them?
recently, about 2 weeks ago. Out of the 10 tractors we are expecting, I think about 2,000 has entered the country. So the minister has shown that. So that's also a good step in this.
So there's progress.
So there's
there.
progress.
Okay.
The only thing is transparency in the process is the only concern now. You know, it's one thing to see 2,000 tractors. It's another thing, maybe after 6 months, there's no more tractor in Nigeria. Or you can't see any tractor
Or you
again.
can't access it. It's
Yeah.
those that have connection that will
Or
be
you
using
end
it.
up seeing, for example, I've queried something about the tractors, which I'm not saying on here now, you know, that there should be transparency to show goodwill. We should start seeing the effect of the location where you are putting them.
And
all
they
over the country.
publicize the location.
Currently, I think they are mostly in Abuja. So my own question is, if the faucet that came, why should everything go to Abuja?
Exactly.
At least show us goodwill. Let them keep some in Southwest. Let them keep some in South-South.
We also
Not-
farm here in Lagos.
So, but taking everything to Abuja, but I think I heard that probably they are bringing some to Ibadan.
I expect
Because
they would.
I'll be wondering why take. So I think some of those good steps, I think the fair now is because we've seen such before
That's only a region benefit.
that only probably, not even benefited, but just went somehow.
Yeah.
And you couldn't really
So
trace.
that happened because the Nigerians
Because
do that. Our
Nigerian
people do that
factors,
because
so the doubt, I
Nigerians
think
do that.
it's
They're gonna
about
sell it to their friends in
doubting
Burkina
the-
Faso.
Yes, doubting the process. So if there's something now that the government needs to do is to be very transparent. Like you said, we don't have to import. You look at what Nigeria was doing in the 60s and you cry if it's the same country we are living in. Nigeria was exporting massively, getting good revenues, just doing about 6 commodities. But even those commodities we are exporting then, we are barely exporting them. You look at our budget for last year, I won't go to the previous years. You look at what impact research is doing in agriculture. We had about 362 billion given to the ministry last year. About 124 billion went to the headquarters. About 102 went to National Development, Agricultural Development Fund. You now give 51 billion to research. Out of the 51 billion to be shared by 19 institutions, 33 was to use for salaries. 33 billion for salaries. So the less than 19 billion left. So what research can you do with that? With 19 institutions? So we are also not bringing in hybrid seeds, new seeds that can cope with the climate change and everything we are going through. So those are the areas I think we should be funding, not spending too much on over. We should be talking about research. Yeah. For example, this morning we saw in the paper that about 12 states will be going through serious heat stress. That also affects animals.
Yes.
Somebody was telling me yesterday that she was trying to set up a small poultry in Adamawa. And one day the heat was so much last year that she was very uncomfortable where she was. So she ran home and she saw that the chicken were almost about giving up, that she had to rush and slaughter them. And freeze them to now sell them.
If not, she would have lost
Imagine
everything.
if she had 80,000 in that same poultry, or 2,000, because people have that capacity. So
Everything will just die.
And the person will probably just lose money.
It's quite sad indeed. I mean, because since Buhari's administration, we're talking agriculture, and you think that
It's
by
getting
now
better.
things will get better. They would have gotten more. So it's quite sad to see that we're still almost in a roller coaster. But I hope that indeed, as you have said, that some of these new policies that are being put in place would actually yield fruit for our growth. Maybe a final question.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about the impact of insecurity. So today we took the story of bandits and headers killing farmers, killing surveyors, and this was across many states.
Yeah.
And do you think that Nigeria, the government, is actively fighting the structure that is encouraging banditry? and what is the impact of banditry and insecurity on our food sustainability drive?
Of course, it has reduced the land size available for agriculture. It has reduced it because if you are not sure of going and coming back home, you rather go and do something else. You see in some states now that the guys that used to do agriculture, they are now Okada riders.
Yeah.
And they've left the job for the local people like us to be doing, and you understand. So I think that's one major impact. You discourage people. And it has discouraged some people. I think I was talking to a lady, she left a project, abandoned a project of over 3 billion in Osun State.
Because she was kidnapped.
She was, she abandoned that project. I tried to encourage her, but she's a lady, and she's in her mid-40s, and she just felt. And so that's one impact. But the government, I think they've been trying in some areas, but I think they can do better.
There's only so much government can do. People also need to be willing to. We have to wrap up with you, unfortunately. But finally, what are your last words, just in case government is listening to you? I heard about the commodities board, which is great.
Yeah.
What other great ideas can you give as we wrap up?
So I would say the government should not give us with the right hand and think with the left, because that's what has been happening. Our cost of production, the cost of fuel goes down. You are happy that your logistics costs will come down, but they increase tariff on electricity, so you are paying more. They increase your costs.
But that's all over, not just you. We have to wrap up.
So
that's all we can take on this. I'm told that the media parley with the FCT minister, which will be linking up very soon right now. Okay. So we'll be taking up that right now. And so we'll have that conversation with Wike. Let's go on a short break. When we come back, we continue with the show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.